Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Township Mapleton Council meeting for Tuesday, November 26, 2024. If you're able, please stand for O Canada. All right, thank you, everyone. The very first thing we have on the agenda today is Clerk Wheeler is going to take the wheel for the swearing in of our new council member, Lori Woodham. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Just want to start off by saying on behalf of staff, once again, Lori, how thankful we are that you put your hand up. And we also thank Jason Hutton and Neil Driscoll. It takes a bit of courage to do that. And yeah, we appreciate it. Second thing is, to council, we might think that Lori's been away for several years now. But in the meantime, with Michelle and myself and Manny and our planner, we've been working with you once a month as chairperson of our committee of adjustment. You've been fantastic to have around, and we're really pleased to have you back. And just one other little note, and that is one of the things Manny and I considered for this to elect a counselor was a mail-in ballot. And we just wouldn't have a counselor right now because of the postal strike. So you need a bit of luck in this world. So Lori, I'll just meet you up at the podium if that's okay. Lori, I'll just get you to read this declaration of office, and then you and I can sign it.
Okay. Well, first off, 10 years ago when I read this, I was so nervous, and Councillor Martin and I had practiced how to say pecuniary interest. So I said it correctly, but the very last sentence I can remember, this I say is my oath, and I said my orth. So hopefully this time I'm going to take a deep breath and I'll do it properly. I, Lori Woodham, having been elected or appointed to the office of councillor in the municipality of Township of Mapleton, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is the same force and effect as it is made under oath.
Thank you very much, Lori. If you could just take.
I'm the lucky one that gets to pin you today. Welcome
Thank you.
back to council.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now that Lori's told us how to say it, any pecuniary interest today? Not there. Confirmation of minutes. Resolution 4.1, moved by Councillor Reed, seconded by Councillor Martin. Let the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on November 12th, 2024 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Any comments, suggestions? No, you got that look on your face. Comments on it? Okay, go ahead.
As I smash things. I left my notes in the car, but the one thing that was missing from the minutes was around, actually, I'm trying to think, how we ran through the nomination form for Councillor Woodham, how it said that we followed the process, but it didn't actually give a result. Is that something that should be included in the meeting minutes? Because it was actually the result of a, I'm sorry, that wasn't very eloquent. I forget the item number. Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I too noticed that and wondered aloud myself, but I can, if we can pass these minutes, then I'll throw it in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. All in favor? It's carried. No matters arising from the minutes, nothing under the Planning Act. Moving on to item number 7, which are delegations. And today we have Rania Mulgar from the County of Wellington Emergency Management. Please come to the podium and welcome. It's nice to see you again.
Hello, good evening. Through you, Mayor Davidson, councillors, thank you so much for having me today. This is just a report that's outlining how the township has met the municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and how the municipality has fulfilled them. So we'll just go through some of those requirements. I'll just highlight some of the key points. So the program committee met on March 6th to review those key parts of the program. So the hazard identification and risk assessment, emergency response plan, training needs, annual exercise, and public education. And the minutes from that committee meeting were attached. The emergency response plan is a requirement that was adopted by council in the fall of 2020. The training requirements for 2024 haven't changed since the 2018 guidance note from the province. Of note, we added the EM 240 course this year and ran 3 sessions of that. The annual emergency management exercise requirement was held on June 20th, and it was focused on a hazmat fixed site scenario. The recommendations and outcomes from this exercise, one was additional training, so specific incident management system training was identified as something that the MECG would like to see more of. Further, there was additional training on the incident action plan desired for scribes, so that's something that we'll be focusing on in 2025. And we do have IMS-specific training that I'm hoping to have completed by the end of the year that I can share with everyone. The shelter management, so the MECG felt that there's a lack of identified shelters throughout the township. So we will be investigating churches or other areas if our designated shelters are not usable or accessible. And then also we'll be looking into formalizing local volunteer assistance. Communication was another piece, so the exercise identified a need to have formalized communication templates and scripts pre-written to ensure consistent messaging and also getting those out in a timely manner. So we're working with our emergency information officers at the township to do that. In terms of public education, we're required to have a public education program, so we continued our Wellington Advertiser radio and social media posts and ads, going out with the Do One Thing campaign. In terms of in-person events, we attended 27 public education events across the county, up by 8 events from last year. In the township, we attended 4 events, and of note, we were at the Farm Safety Pancake Breakfast and the Canada Day celebrations. critical infrastructure, so we're required to have the critical infrastructure identified. We reviewed that at the EMPC meeting, but then we're also updating our common operating picture map. We're hoping to have that done by mid-2025, if not earlier. We are working really hard to get that completed because we want that up and running as soon as possible. Lastly, the COVID-19 final after action report, it's just an update. We did do an interim, but then we did have a survey run over the summer with our joint EOC members who were asked to participate in that. So generally, it was found that the response was really well done. There was a lot of coordination, collaboration, and decision-making that made it a very successful response. Specifically, that joint declaration of emergency and any of those decisions throughout the pandemic. The member municipalities felt that we all came out of the pandemic more flexible, adaptable, and prepared for future emergencies. More details about things that need to be updated. For example, some of our plans, while they were helpful, were a little bit out of date or needed a little bit more information, so we'll be working on that in 2025. But overall, it was felt that the effective leadership, clear definition of roles, good communication, flexibility, and adaptability of all involved resulted in a successful response. So in conclusion, the township has fulfilled those municipal requirements under the Act and regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our delegation? Thank you so much. Have the resolution here, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid, that the Township Maple Land Council receive for information the 2024 Annual Emergency Management Program Report dated November 26, 2024, regarding the status of the Township's Annual Emergency Management Program, and that Council accepts the annual status report of the Township's Emergency Management Program for 2024, and further, the Council receive for information the draft minutes of the Township Mapleton Emergency Management Program Committee meeting held on March the 6th, 2024. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Your first official vote, Lori. Look at that. And you did that so well. All right, moving on. We have no minutes from committees. The next one up is our building department. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. As you can see, the building department report is for council to review. We issued $66,000 in permits for the month of October. That's up from September, which is a good sign. So far, it appears that building permits are being issued and applied for in greater number near the end of the year, and we hope this continues into the new year.
Great, thanks, Tim. Resolution here, moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Martin, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information Building Department Report BD 2024-13 dated November 26, 2024, regarding the October month-end and year-to-date building activity. Questions from council? Councillor Martin.
Sorry, pal. I know you already moved away from the... And sorry, it's not pal, it's CBO Schwartz and Schreiber. Just a quick question about, I know the projections, the year-to-dates are below what we've had the last few years. You indicated that permits are kind of spiking here at the end of the year. Do you have any concerns as far as from a budgetary standpoint that by the time we get to the end of the year that you'll be in a shortfall position at all within the building department, or how are you projecting that?
Through Mayor Davidson to Councillor Martin. No, definitely not. Being that our staffing levels have been kept low, we should still be able to put a generous amount into the reserves by the end of this year. Also, with the building code changes coming up for the beginning of 2025, we are anticipating greater values of farm permits as well coming in, so there shouldn't be really any issues there.
Other questions? Thank you, Tim. All in favor? It's carried. Moving on to the next one. And this is the CEO's report, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid. Township Mapleton Council received information, CAO report CL 2024-19 regarding the 2025 Roma Conference delegation submissions. Mr. Barron, have you got anything to say on that one?
Through your worship, just essentially, we sat down as a group and tried to figure out what would be the best use of our time at the conference, and came up with 4 delegations that we've requested, the first being obviously the Minister of Finance. Predictable funding, as we hear from Roma and other municipalities, is of great importance to us. We don't have the extra staff to start applying for application-based funding. We put in extra hours, but it would be helpful if we can convince the Minister of Finance to place a greater emphasis on formula-based funding. And of course, kudos to the provincial government. They have done very well at increasing the OMPF funding, so we'd like to obviously extend our appreciation for that. Ministry of Infrastructure, I think we've become friends now with Minister Surma, but we want to demonstrate to them that we're not out there for a handout, although it would be nice to get some funding. We are there to present the solution to what we believe is the model for Ontario, and as you know, we're working with Graham and our consulting engineer, SEMA, to get there. So we'll just kind of brag a little bit about ourselves and how we're a solution-based municipality. The Ministry of Energy and Electrification. One thing that we found working as we grow is that, as we all know, we're bound by legislative timelines as it relates to building permits, planning applications, and things like that. But we found that perhaps there's not the same maybe level of scrutiny when it comes to our utilities. So we'd like to implore to Mr. Lecce that maybe they should explore legislative timelines for the utilities as well, being that they're allowed to operate as a monopoly. And last but not least, we met with the Solicitor General, a year and a half ago or so, and they asked that we come back with an update on our fire partnership. It's been an absolute true success for all 3 municipalities, and all 3 municipalities are hopefully going to do a joint delegation to share the successes, and once again, hopefully, be a model for the rest of Ontario volunteer firefighter in their municipality, and that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Questions for Mr. Barron on this report? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Next up, we have 9.3.1. And it's on the IT manager service level business case. Resolution here is moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Martin, that as per Township Mapleton Procedural Bylaw 2021-064, item 7.4, item business matter that was not listed on the agenda cannot be introduced to council meeting without the approval of council expressed resolution. By resolution, therefore, the Township Mapleton Council hereby waives the notice requirement for today's council meeting to allow an addendum under the heading of Finance Department, IT Manager Service Level Business Case. So this is just allowing council to have that report. Any questions on that? Councilor Martin?
Not a question, just a comment. I appreciate the time and energy it went into creating a separate report for this particular FTE. I think none of the information was really new. I think PK articulated it fairly well in the workshop as far as a business case for it, but just to have it in writing, it was nice to be able to leaf through it. And I think that when we are adding positions here at the township, it's nice that the public can kind of see something like this too. So it certainly seems like there's a great rationale for this particular position, especially as the world evolves into even more reliance on this stuff. Having the in-house support seems to make a lot of sense. So just to thank you for the time and energy on it.
All right. So all in favor of allowing this report into our agenda? It's addendum. That's carried. Next up is 9.3. Okay, so this is 9.3.1 still, moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid. Township Mapleton Council received for information the finance report FIN 2024-34 regarding the IT manager service level business case. Any questions on the actual report and the business case? Go ahead, sir.
Do you want me to?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for the comments, Councillor Martin. I would agree best practice would be doing this going forward, bringing forward business cases when we do look to bring additional FTs on board. So what you see, we put together a structure of report for a business case to rationalize the IT manager role. Essentially breaks it down into what specifically we're looking to do, the current status of IT services, how that could be enhanced through this FTE, and then any alternatives and risk that we might have considered. Essentially, just so the community's aware, we did have a workshop with council, discuss this role a little bit there. This is bringing that, as Councillor Martin said, to the public. We have reached a point where in-house IT management is critical to ensuring the continuity of services, both for staff here and for the community that use those services. The report does provide an overview that we have an excellent working relationship with our current managed service provider. However, the on-site in-house support is necessary and critical right now. The budget being presented for adoption this evening already includes the requisite funding for this position. So if and when the budget's approved, hopefully tonight, staff would move forward with posting this job for the recruitment, getting somebody, a high-quality IT professional in-house for the start of the new calendar year. This staff member would be responsible for building out an IT master plan, completing the necessary disaster recovery and cybersecurity strategies, and developing relationships with staff here to support their needs. Finally, once established, we will have a better understanding of whether there's any additional capacity within this role that we could look at a shared service agreement with one of our neighboring townships and enter into that agreement with one or more municipalities. But the budget includes a provision as if this position was wholly funded with the Township of Mapleton. So essentially worst case scenario, and we can only benefit from if a shared service agreement is reached. So here to take any questions of council, but the report's there for information.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Questions then? Or other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Next up, 9.3.2, 2025 Municipal Budget and Multi-Year Forecast. Coming right over there, Patrick, right over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. No formal presentation this evening on the budget. We went through multiple iterations of those, both in council chambers here as well as at our public input session at the PMD Arena. As noted within the report, throughout the entire budget process, we followed consistent guiding principles. We did reach what we felt was the goal of a target levy increase at 3.55%, which is consistent with the previously endorsed forecast by this council. Though I did note in the report, in an effort to maintain that levy increase to the forecast, we did defer a number of additional service level changes, staffing requirements. We deferred or recalibrated some of our capital initiatives, and we did defer some potential program service level enhancements to reach that. The proposed levy adjustment allows us to also adjust some previous budget allocations that may have needed adjustment and avoid a reliance on non-sustainable revenue streams. Overall, with the budget approved this evening, we would be able to move forward as one of the first municipalities in Ontario to issue bid documents for tenders, et cetera. Noting the previous report, we'd be able to begin recruitment for the IT staff member, and optimistically that time frame would allow us to achieve best costing on those initiatives and recruit one of the better IT professionals out on the market. So just before I turn it over back to you, Mayor, the budget is not possible without a phenomenal team of inputs, both from my peers on senior management, a lot of engagement and support from them in this process, but also cannot understate the value of my deputy treasurer, or our deputy treasurer that's in-house here tonight. Heather put in a significant amount of effort during a transition period for Mapleton, moving from one treasurer to another one, and kept us on target to get this budget before you and approved prior to the end of the year, which was the goal, and deserves a lot of gratitude from this community for that effort as well. There's a whole team of finance folks on the other side of the door there that day in, day out help us get the numbers aligned and making sense that we can be confident in what we're putting forward in the budget. So thanks finally to you as council for your level of engagement in this process and your efforts to try and engage members of the community in the process. As I said from the outset, this is a community's budget. It's not my budget or senior management's or yours. It's Mapleton's budget, and I think it's something that we can all be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And I would agree that the team, the senior management team, and the team in the finance has done a tremendous job, and I do appreciate, Heather, all the work that you've done when John left, and you stepped right up and gave us reports and kept the ship running, and then helped Patrick out when he was transitioning in. So I really appreciate what you've done here for Mapleton. So thank you. So, budget, questions? Open it up. Councillor Woodham.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. Through you, it will be to Mr. Kelly. I did attend a couple council meetings previously, and I've noticed that, and speaking with Mr. Kelly on Monday, I had a great meeting with him going through the budget. But we, at a previous council meeting, Councillor Reid requested that the line for benefits for council members be deferred indefinitely. And so when I was going through the budget, I noticed that it is still in the budget, and I can appreciate why that would be, because if it does go forward, then it is a true budget going. But if I could ask Mr. Kelly then to explain to me what would happen if it was defeated, just so that the general ratepayer would know what would happen to that line and what would happen to that budget amount of $28,750.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Davidson, to Councillor Woodham. Yes, you're correct. The budget allocation for group benefits for council is still within the full municipal budget for 2025. That is prudent fiscal planning in the fact that we don't know at this point in time whether that would be defeated. In the event that it is, those funds don't disappear. They would just make up portion of the year-end surplus or deficit calculation. If it's a surplus at the end of the year, which we would be hopeful that there is, it would go into our infrastructure reserve funds and help build up our capacity to fund future capital. So a very good question on where funds go if they're not utilized. They don't disappear into the oblivion. They end up in a reserve fund and fund future capital for the community.
Thank you. Another question you have? You're good? Questions on this side? Seeing none? And I'll call the question here. Again, I'm going to read this. Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Martin. The Township of Mapleton Council receive information finance report, FIN 2024-33, regarding the 2025 municipal budget and multi-year forecast, and that council hereby approves the 2025 budget, multi-year operating forecast, and 10-year capital program. One more time, any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Mr. Kelly, you've done such a great job, but you have very few questions today on the final day. And here you were running around thinking that, oh my gosh, but no, you actually did it. First budget.
Through you, Mayor Davidson, I wasn't nervous for 1 minute today.
All right. We do appreciate you and the staff and senior management for taking us through this and answering all the questions that council had and the community had at the community open house. Really appreciate it. There's correspondence there in item 11 for council's direction. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. There is a cover letter and the draft strategy there. Any comments on that correspondence for council's direction? They're asking for some input if council would like to do that. All right. There's a couple items on council's information there, item 12.1 and 12.2. Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor Davidson, I just wanted to thank you again for the update. We had talked about on the table here about getting updates a little more often from the county, and I just appreciated seeing that there today.
Thank you. Councilor Woodham.
Through you, Mayor Davidson, to you, is this, and being new, so I can ask this question, is this something that's going to be coming from you quarterly, monthly, or?
At this present time, I'm hoping to do it at the end of every county council meeting and present it monthly to council.
Because I
On
too
the update.
really appreciated it. It brought me up to speed on a few things that were going on, and yes, it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you noticed there, council, one of the big items, of course, was the police line, which is adding 2% onto the county budget line, regardless of anything else, because of the new contract that the OBP officers got after going to court to fight the provincial government and then going through negotiations, going back to a number of years. So this, the financing part of that was a surprise to county. They didn't expect such a large increase, so it will add 2% right away before doing any other work. So, Councilor Martin.
I'd say hashtag #me3. I enjoyed the update. I think it's probably been a gap here. I know there's different ways for the county or you, for example, to get the messaging out. This is also a great spot to do it, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with kind of the messaging that we try to send at times. So the level, I don't know how long it took you to do this up, but I enjoyed the read, so I appreciate the detail.
Well, since it takes hours and hours to read, it took me a few hours to put it together, but I try to do it anyway. I have to do it for the roads committee and do the roads one and present. So then I've been taking notes while going to the other meetings. So hopefully it'll get easier as I go along. I'm glad that this has helped you in your work. That was the whole purpose of that. So thank you for bringing that up, and we'll continue doing that. Don't expect it the day after the county meeting, though. Any notice of motions, number 13? There's a couple of notices of provision in there, 14.1 and 14.2, with some advertising. And going to item number 15 then, other business. Anything need to be brought up at this point? We have no closed session, Mr. Clerk.
We do not.
So we're going to item number 17. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Reid, that bylaw number 2024-054, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Mapleton, be hereby read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with a corporate seal. All in favor? That's a go on that one. That's carried. And number 18, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. 4:34.